There are thoughts that have been living in your mind for so long that they feel like truth, but they were never meant to guide your life. They slipped in quietly through disappointment, through rejection, through moments when things didn't go the way you expected. And over time, they built a narrative that says you are limited, that you should be careful, that you should not reach too far. And the most dangerous part about those beliefs is not that they exist, but that you have grown comfortable carrying them. You have learned how to function with them, how to dream around them, how to dream around them, how to shrink your expectations so you never have to confront them. But something happens when you begin to question those thoughts. Something shifts when you stop accepting every negative idea as your reality and start asking yourself, who told me this was true? Because not every voice in your mind deserves authority. Not every thought deserves agreement. Some thoughts were planted in seasons when you were vulnerable, when you didn't yet know your strength, when you didn't yet understand your worth. And if they were formed in a broken place, why would you allow them to define your whole life? Breaking free from limiting beliefs requires honesty. It requires you to look at yourself without the filters of fear and admit that some of the boundaries you are living within are self-imposed. It requires you to recognize that you have been negotiating with doubt instead of confronting it. You have been shrinking instead of stretching, hiding instead of rising. And while that may have felt safe, it has also kept you stuck. There is a difference between being realistic and being restricted. Realism acknowledges challenges, but restriction surrenders to them. And too often you have called your fear wisdom. You have labeled your hesitation as caution, when in reality it was insecurity trying to protect you from the discomfort of growth. But growth has never been comfortable. Expansion has never been easy. And if you are waiting to feel completely ready before you step into something greater, you will be waiting for the rest of your life. So this morning, the work begins in your mind. Before anything changes around you, something has to change within you. You have to become aware of the patterns of thinking that have been limiting your movement. The thoughts that say, I can't do this, I'm not enough, this is too much for me. Those thoughts may feel automatic, but they are not permanent. They are habits, and habits can be broken. You have the authority to interrupt those thoughts. You have the power to challenge them, to replace them, to refuse to give them space in your mind. And at first it may feel unnatural. It may feel like you are speaking against years of conditioning, but every time you choose a different thought, every time you reject a limiting belief, you are creating a new pathway. You are teaching your mind that it does not have to default to doubt. And understand this. Breaking free is not a one-time decision. It is a daily commitment, because those old beliefs will try to return. Because those old beliefs will try to return. They will try to remind you of your past, to bring up your failures, to replay moments when things didn't work out. But you don't have to relive every memory that comes to your mind. You don't have to agree with every reminder of who you used to be. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to outgrow the version of yourself that believe those lies. There is also a responsibility that comes with freedom, because once you begin to see that your limitations were never as solid as they felt, you can no longer hide behind them. You can no longer use them as an excuse for why you are not moving forward, and that can feel uncomfortable because it means stepping into accountability. It means realizing that there is more within you, and now you have to decide what you are going to do with it. But this is where your power is, not in pretending that fear doesn't exist, but in refusing to let it decide your direction. Not in waiting for perfect conditions, but in choosing to move even when things are uncertain. Because every step you take outside of those limiting beliefs weakens their hold on you. Every action you take in faith and confidence, in courage, reminds you that you are capable of more than you once believed. You were never meant to live confined by thoughts that diminish you. You were never meant to carry beliefs that contradict your potential. And the moment you begin to release those beliefs, the moment you stop agreeing with them, you create space for something new. Space for growth, for confidence, for vision, for expansion. And it starts with a decision that you will no longer accept a mindset that keeps you small. A decision that you will challenge every thought that tries to convince you that you are less than what you are. A decision that you will rise above the narratives that were built in your weakest moments and step into the truth of who you are becoming. The way you see your life will always determine the way you experience it. And for too long, you may have been seeing your future through a lens that was too small for who you are becoming. It's not that you lack potential. It's that your expectations have been conditioned by what you've seen, what you've been told, and what you've survived. When you've been surrounded by limitation, you learn how to expect less. When you have experienced disappointment, you start preparing for it before it even arrives. And without realizing it, you begin to build a life that matches those expectations. But your mindset is not fixed. It is not permanent. It is something that can expand the moment you decide that where you are mentally is not where you have to stay. And expansion begins when you give yourself permission to believe differently, not based on your past, not based on your current circumstances, but based on the possibility of what could be. Because the truth is, you cannot step into a greater life while holding on to smaller thinking. You cannot expect extraordinary outcomes while entertaining ordinary beliefs about yourself. There is a version of you that sees further, believes deeper, and expects more than you currently allow yourself to imagine. That version is not unreachable. It is not reserved for someone else. It is already within you, waiting for you to align your thoughts with its reality. But alignment requires intention. It requires you to become aware of how often you downplay your dreams, how often you talk yourself out of opportunities, how often you talk yourself out of opportunities, how often you shrink your expectations to match your comfort zone. Comfort has a way of convincing you that it is enough. It whispers that you should be satisfied with what is familiar, that you should not risk what you already have, that wanting more is somehow ungrateful. But there is a difference between being grateful and being complacent. Gratitude appreciates where you are, but it does not limit where you are going. Complacency, on the other hand, keeps you anchored to a place that no longer challenges you to grow. So when you begin to expand your mindset, you are not rejecting your present. You are redefining your future. You are saying, had there is more available to you, more within you, more ahead of you. And that belief begins to shift how you carry yourself. You stop approaching life with hesitation and start moving with expectation. You stop waiting for permission and start creating opportunities. You stop asking if something is possible and start preparing as if it already is. And this is where transformation happens, not just in what you think, but in how you act. Because your expectations influence your behavior. When you expect little, you give little effort. When you expect failure, you hesitate. When you expect failure, you hesitate. When you expect rejection, you hold back. But when you expect growth, when you expect success, when you expect doors to open, you begin to show up differently. You take bolder steps. You speak with more confidence. You pursue what once intimidated you. Expanding your mindset also means learning how to sit with discomfort, because bigger thinking will challenge your current identity. It will stretch you beyond what feels natural. It will ask you to believe things that you have never seen before. And that can feel unsettling. It can make you question yourself. It can make you want to retreat back into familiar patterns. But discomfort is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is often a sign that you are growing. You have to learn how to stay in that space long enough for your mind to adjust, long enough for your beliefs to catch up with your vision. Because at first, your vision will always feel bigger than your confidence. It will always feel ahead of where you are. But that is the point. Your vision is not meant to reflect your current reality. It is meant to pull you into a new one. And as you begin to think bigger, you also have to become mindful of what you feed your mind, because your environment will either support your expansion or reinforce your limitations. The conversations you engage in, the voices you listen to, the content you consume, all of it shapes your thinking. If you surround yourself with negativity, with doubt, with people who settle, it becomes harder to believe for more. But when you expose yourself to growth, to possibility, to people who challenge you to rise, your mindset begins to stretch naturally. This is not about ignoring reality. It is about refusing to be defined by it. It is about understanding that your current situation is not your final destination. And if you allow your expectations to rise, if you allow your thinking to expand, you begin to create a bridge between where you are and where you are meant to be. Because the truth is, you will always move in the direction of your strongest beliefs. And if your beliefs are small, your life will reflect that. But when your beliefs grow, when your expectations increase, when your vision expands, everything about you begins to shift. You start to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You start to recognize potential where you once saw limitations. You start to believe that more is not just possible, but available to you. There comes a moment when everything you have been thinking, everything you have been believing demands a response through action. Because it is not enough to shift your mindset if your movement stays the same. It is not enough to speak about purpose if you are unwilling to walk in it. And this is where many people hesitate, not because they lack potential, but because stepping forward requires a level of boldness that feels unfamiliar. It requires you to trust yourself in ways you never have before. It requires you to move even when the outcome is not guaranteed. Walking boldly in purpose is not about having everything figured out. It is not about waiting until fear disappears or until every step is clear. It is about choosing to go forward despite uncertainty. It is about recognizing that clarity often comes after movement, not before it. And if you keep waiting for perfect conditions, you will remain in the same place, watching opportunities pass by while convincing yourself that it just wasn't the right time. But the truth is, purpose does not wait for comfort. It calls you out of it. It stretches you beyond what feels safe and invites you into spaces that require growth. And when you begin to respond to that call, you will feel resistance. You will feel the tension between who you have been and who you are becoming. That tension is not there to stop you. It is there to transform you. It is there to remind you that you are stepping into something greater than what you have known. Confidence in this journey is not something you magically wake up with. It is something you build. It is something that develops every time you choose to act in alignment with your purpose instead of your fear. Every step you take, no matter how small, becomes evidence that you are capable. Every time you show up, even when you feel uncertain, you reinforce a new belief about yourself. And over time, those small acts of courage begin to shape a stronger, more confident version of you. But you have to be willing to start before you feel ready, because readiness is often an illusion. It is a moving target that keeps shifting as long as you keep chasing it. You tell yourself that you will begin when you have more knowledge, more resources, more certainty. But even when you gain those things, the doubt will still try to find a reason to delay you. And that is why boldness is not about waiting. It is about deciding. Deciding that you will no longer allow fear to have the final say. Deciding that your purpose is greater than your hesitation. Deciding that even if you stumble, even if things don't go perfectly, you will. Keep moving forward, because progress is not about perfection. It is about persistence. It is about showing up again and again, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels challenging. And as you begin to walk in that boldness, you will notice something shifting within you. The things that once intimidated you will start to feel manageable. The risks that once seemed overwhelming will begin to feel necessary. Not because they have changed, but because you have. Your perspective will expand, your resilience will grow, and your confidence will deepen. You will also begin to understand that purpose is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is found in the quiet decisions you make every day. The decision to keep going when you feel like quitting. The decision to believe in yourself when doubt tries to take over. The decision to take responsibility for your growth instead of waiting for someone else to validate you. And there will be moments when you question yourself. Moments when you wonder if you are truly capable of what you are pursuing. Moments when the weight of responsibility feels heavy. But those moments do not define your ability. They reveal your humanity. And in those moments, you have a choice. You can retreat back into what is familiar, or you can remind yourself of why you started and continue forward. Because walking in purpose is not about avoiding challenges. It is about rising through them. It is about understanding that every obstacle is an opportunity to strengthen your character, to refine your vision, to deepen your commitment. And when you begin to see challenges through that lens, they lose their power to stop you. You also have to learn how to trust your voice. For too long, you may have relied on external validation, waiting for someone else to confirm that you are ready, that you are capable, that you are worthy. But true confidence comes from within. It comes from knowing who you are, from understanding your value, from recognizing that you do not need permission to pursue what has been placed on your heart. And as you continue to walk boldly, you will inspire others to do the same, not because you have all the answers, but because your willingness to move forward becomes a reflection of what is possible. Your courage becomes a reminder that fear does not have to be the end of the story. So you keep going, you keep showing up, you keep taking steps, even when they are uncertain. Because every step you take is a declaration that you are no longer living in hesitation, but in intention. Every action you take is proof that you are choosing purpose over fear, growth over comfort, and boldness over limitation. And now, as this moment settles into your spirit, you are no longer the same person who started this journey just a little while ago. Something has shifted in your thinking, something has awakened in your awareness, and something has been stirred deep within you that refuses to go back to sleep. Because once you see that your limitations were never permanent, once you realize that your expectations have the power to shape your reality, and once you understand that your purpose requires bold movement, you cannot return to a life of hesitation. You have confronted the beliefs that tried to keep you small, and you have made a decision to no longer agree with them. You have recognized that your mindset must expand if your life is going to grow, and you have chosen to believe beyond what you currently see. You have accepted that purpose is not something you wait for, but something you walk in, and that every step forward matters. And in all of this, you have taken back your power. This is not just a moment of motivation. This is a moment of transformation, because motivation can fade, but transformation changes how you see yourself. It changes how you respond to challenges. It changes how you respond to challenges. It changes how you approach opportunities. And from this point forward, you are not just hoping for a better life. You are becoming the person who creates it. There will still be challenges. There will still be moments of doubt. There will still be days when it feels easier to shrink back into what is familiar. But now you know better. Now you recognize those thoughts for what they are, and you have the strength to rise above them. You are no longer a prisoner of your past thinking. You are a creator of your future reality. So as you step into this day and every day that follows, carry this with you. You are not limited, you are not stuck, and you are not finished. There is more in you, more for you, and more ahead of you than you have even begun to imagine. And it is waiting on your willingness to believe it, to expect it, and to move toward it with courage. Because everything changes the moment you decide that you will no longer think small, live small, or expect small. And from this day forward, you rise, you expand, and you walk boldly into the life that was always waiting for you.